The humor code key idea number 3, if you want to be funny, you need to be honest and practice often. So we've seen that laughter is a natural ability that we all have, but what about making other people laugh? Is everyone born a comedian as well? Well, being a comedian is hard work, and not everyone can be great at it. However, with a lot of practice, it is possible to improve your general ability to make others laugh. You can't become funny overnight, but over time, you can come up with different jokes and try them in different situations to find out what works best for you. There are even several comedy schools throughout the world, like the Santa Monica Playhouse in the US, or the New Start Comedy School in Japan. In comedy schools, you can learn how to hold your microphone in the most effective way and how to pronounce certain words to make them sound funnier. It can be quite challenging to be funny, because the circumstances surrounding your joke are different each time. Some jokes might not work with certain audiences. It's probably a bad idea to make sexist jokes about women if the majority of your audience is female. To be prepared for different situations, you need to constantly try out new jokes or kinds of humor. The situation you're in can have a big effect. For example, experiments have shown that the room you're telling jokes in will have an effect on how they're received. It's better to be in a dark room. Your audience will feel closer to anonymous and they'll be more likely to laugh, especially if the jokes are inappropriate. You should also always strive for honesty in your jokes. People tend to laugh more when jokes refer to something realistic. That means you will have the best chance at being funny if you practice honesty with yourself, being authentic even when it's difficult to be. The humor code key idea number 4, jokes need to be simple and clear so they can be understood everywhere. Have you ever heard humor from outside your culture? Did you notice that the jokes were different? Humor is culturally subjective. The joke that works in Paris may not work well in St. Petersburg. Keeping your jokes simple will enable a broader audience from varying cultural backgrounds to understand them and laugh. Eliminate clutter in your speech. Stick to the essential information needed to make the joke. If you provide too much information or the joke is too complicated, you run the risk of confusing your audience, and nothing is worse than telling a joke that nobody gets. If you have to explain why something is funny, you've missed the chance to make your audience laugh. It's also important to make sure that your audience understands your joke's context. Even if they understand the language in which you're speaking, the way we contextualize jokes is also cultural. For example, English speakers usually preface a joke with one sentence that sets it up and gives a hint about what's to follow. Having a sort of structure is what allows the audience to feel familiar with the subject and tune in to follow the story. If you're speaking to an audience with varied cultural values, the structure may seem foreign to them, and as a result, the joke won't translate culturally. In Japan, for example, people tell jokes differently. Cultural homogeneity is so strong that people don't really need to set up their jokes. They can understand each other's jokes more quickly, so Japanese people tend to get to the punchline right away. Sometimes they only use a gesture to refer to a funny incident in their history or culture. So if you're a foreigner in Japan, you might have trouble understanding the humor if you haven't studied Japanese culture before. By contrast, countries with more regional variation than Japan will tend to exhibit more local kinds of humor, based on local cultures and histories.